Deadeye is gone. Isn't that great? Surely that is what everyone wanted. So why make this video and waste precious time remembering something that has been made obsolete today and that will just go down in the history of the game as another bad idea implemented, disliked by the community, and promptly removed or altered, only for the community to find something else to be angry about, rinse and repeat. But I feel like there's a conversation to be had here, and I'm well aware many other channels have already made their statements on why the skill was bad, or terrible, or the greatest mistake ever depending on which content you consume on a daily basis. But aside from being absent from the game for quite a while, I wanted to wait on Wargaming's response and see how they address the issue and what their fix is, as I find that more interesting than explaining if Deadeye was truly that bad or not. Because, was it really that bad after all? There's something to be said about us, the player base, a bunch of developed apes. We have a tendency to pile up and put all of our blame on a single point, sometimes exacerbated by external agents looking to rile up the community to find themselves in the spotlight against the big bad company. And if that is not subtle enough, if you find yourself saying fuck Wargaming and wishing people's deaths over a video game, then perhaps you should leave a dislike already and return to whatever hellhole echo chamber you came from. I don't think the skill was as bad as some people made it out to be. While the dispersion boost was proven to be higher than expected, I don't think the problem came from guns being more accurate. That part isn't much of a problem on itself. Deep down we all love accurate guns on our battleships, which is why the Yamato will always remain a community favorite, especially with the legendary module. Accurate battleships, like Thunderer, Yamato and Slava became even better at their job, while the rest of battleships benefited from having a more consistent gun feel. So it felt like a horizontal move, making every battleship more accurate by default except for secondary focused battleships. More on them later. What I feel really tipped the scale was the downside of the skill. The fact you only get the accuracy boost if you remain unspotted. This part right there, which at first seemed innocuous, a downside to avoid having a straight up buffing skill with no downside, an issue that we are seeing on other skills. This downside was the biggest point of contention, because players love min-maxing on video games. And regardless of how strong the boost on accuracy really was, players were already on a mindset to abuse the system. And how do you do that? If you can only get the boost while not spotted, and battleships are known for having bad concealment, well of course the solution is to stay as far back from the action as possible, you know, rather than giving up an accuracy boost, to remain closer to your teammates and support them on winning control of the caps or the engagement. But no, we big monkey and we want to see the big numbers show up on the screen when we click on the enemy. What happened after that was human hubris in a nutshell. Everyone wanted a piece of the cake. If everyone else is sniping from the corners of the map, then why shouldn't I do the same? An eye for an eye, or dead eye for a dead eye in this case. Eventually the game was filled to the brims with Thunderers running dead eye shooting at each other while contributing nothing to the teams. Was this entirely Deadeye's fault? I don't think so. Deadeye just made the problem obvious to people. Thunderer was already overperforming before Deadeye, and it was a really popular choice long before the Commander rework. Sniping and passive gameplay have been predominant, especially on a specific server that min-maxes min-maxing to the absolute limit. We all know which one it is. Thunderer has been removed from sale, which seems like putting flex tape on a leaky pipe. It solves the problem, but your floor is still covered in feces and dirty water. All Thunderers that could have been sold were sold already, and people will still bring them out regardless, so long as it keeps being as overperforming as it is. There has been news of a nerf coming to Thunderer that nerfs the range very slightly, which completely misses the point of what the problem was, as it doesn't really matter if Thunderer is sniping from 23 kilometers instead of 24. It fails to address the issue, and if anything leaves me wondering what the reasoning was behind that choice. Perhaps the jokes about the spreadsheets are not entirely out of place, and it is tone-deaf choices like this one that makes it feel like the balance of the game is done entirely looking at an Excel page rather than, you know, playing the game. Because while yes, there is no more Thunderer with Deadeye, Thunderer will remain a beautifully crafted annoyance that is more accurate than the rest of its peers. I do not consider the changes with Thunderer a problem solved. And if me putting into question the choices they have made is seen as a problem or seen as a passionate toxic ill-behaved attack on the developers, then perhaps I don't deserve the place I was given by them. I still feel like it is my duty to point those problems out, and hopefully, even if I don't get it entirely right, I manage to spark a respectful conversation about the issues on the game, rather than flinging shit to each other like baboons and name calling for the sake of it. But back to Deadeye. What did Wargaming do to solve the problem? They removed it. Another flex tape approach. It was a really obvious one, mind you. If anything, just to make the community shut the fuck up for a moment before they find out about the new ships with carpet bombing and the subreddit, forums and discords collectively burst into flames again. Deadeye has been replaced for Swift in Silence, a really cheap replacement considering it already exists on destroyers. It gives you a % boost on your speed, so long as you remain unspotted. And honestly, once again, I still feel like this fails to address the issues that Deadeye brought up. You no longer have the skill that people were complaining about, and that is great for quenching the flames of the player base, but perhaps this was the moment to analyze how such a skill impacted the game so much, what it told us about the player base and the state of the game as it stands now. Wargaming has gone on record saying that they want to respect people that prefer the sniper style gameplay of battleships, and while most of us love those big numbers popping up when we shoot someone from afar, I feel like there is a compromise to be made. If the sniping gameplay is something you want to allow in your game, why do it on a team-based objective focused game, rather than for example a battle royale style game where everyone is working on their own or on squads? Objective-oriented team play-based games like Overwatch have proved that sniping with characters like Widowmaker doesn't work. They only ever work at the highest level of play possible, and even then it comes at a price. Playing passively and passively will remain strongly in the game because the player base loves to min-max, and currently with the skills available and the ships we have, it is what the game encourages to do. Secondary, close range or brawler type battleship builds are discouraged by the skill system due to how hard of an investment in points a good close quarters build is, and even if you invest in it, a battleship pressing left click on you with HE loaded will still have the advantage over you, regardless of Deadeye or not. This is a most subjective opinion, but I feel that Deadeye could have easily worked as a skill if it encouraged you to stay close to your team and the objective, rather than inadvertently pushing you far away from them. We will not be seeing any more updates to skill changes until autumn, so this video comes late to the party, and I was right on wasting everyone's time. And something tells me the change to the destroyer skill Fearless Brawler to remove the concealment penalty will become the hot new thing and buff the destroyers that were already dominating by virtue of being gunboats, while the buff to the AP damage skill comes close to the release of the new AP focused German destroyers. Keep your tinfoil hat close. Just saying. We are a very vocal community, not only the player base, but the content creators, and on top the community contributors. We are all working, thinking, and talking on what would be the best ways to improve the game with each and every change that is made. And yet it always feels that our input is not always reflected on the choices made to the game. Perhaps so many stats and numbers are misleading, and player satisfaction, while hard to quantify and measure, should be taking more into account. It shouldn't feel like we are fighting the devs, and yet that is the impression most of the player base has, that we are in a constant tug of war to get changes that we actually enjoy. That's some food for thought for the devs. The player base is not perfect either. It takes a lot to endure the vitriolic rage some players throw wildly without considering there's people behind all of those pixels. Even while writing this video I find myself thinking if my words make sense or just come out as incoherent rambling. I don't know where I stand with the game currently, or where I'm heading with the channel, but I find myself thinking more about the game and the issues around it, rather than actually playing it, and it's a damn shame. That is all for now. I will gladly read all the comments and your thoughts. Maybe I will learn a new perspective on the subject I proposed in this video. Have a good day everyone.